It's Thursday, October 10th. This is a joint meeting of the Palm Desert City Council successor agency to the Palm Desert Redevelopment Agency, Palm Desert Housing Authority, and the Palm Desert Board Library Trustees. Pursuant to Assembly Bill 2449, this meeting may be conducted as a hybrid meeting, allowing public access via teleconference or in person, and up to 2 council members may attend remotely. Can we have roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Hartnett.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Nastandi.
Here.
Councilmember Truby.
Here.
Mayor Quintanilla.
Present.
All council is here.
Thank you. Do we have any report from closed session?
No reportable action was taken in closed session this afternoon.
Thank you. A pledge of allegiance will be led by Councilmember Nastandi. And this week's inspiration will be led by Councilmember Truby.
All right, thank you very much. Pulled out an oldie but a goodie. This is from Thomas Jefferson. The care of human life and happiness, and not their destruction, is the first and only object of good government. Thank you.
Short and sweet. I'd gotten a hold of myself there. Closed report. Thank you to our city attorney. Item number 9, awards, presentations, and appointments. Today presentation we have from College of the Desert, capital projects and instructional programs. Hello, Dr. Hope.
Good afternoon, Mayor Quintanilla, members of the City Council, everybody attending this afternoon. My name is Laura Hope, and I'm the Interim Superintendent President at College of the Desert. I also have some colleagues here that I want to make sure that I acknowledge. One of them being my boss, Dr. Bonnie Steffen, who is our board chair. Welcome. And also.
Good afternoon. I'm Rodrigo Garcia. I'm the Vice President, Administrative Services.
And also our Public Information Officer, Nicholas Robles. So thank you so much. We're going to give you a very brief presentation of some of the activity that's happening just across the way as we upgrade some of the facilities in Palm Desert. We're very excited about some of these updates. I believe you have the PowerPoint up, and Rod's going to start us off with some of the physical changes to the campus.
Thank you, President Hope. So, oops. Okay, so we're going to talk about a couple projects that we have going on our Palm Desert campus. The first one is our athletic stadium renovation, or actually construction. So what we're doing here is we are demolishing our current football stadium as well as our weight room. This will make way for a new facility that will have locker rooms, our auxiliary spaces, including office facilities or rooms, laundry, video, IT rooms. Along with this project, we're also going to not only be doing structures, but we're going to be redoing the football field and the soccer field, meaning we're actually rearranging the soccer field the way it currently is right now. In the process where we're currently at right now, we have gone through design already. We've already gone through plan check in bidding. We are going to be starting construction soon. And occupancy is what we're estimating to be is the third quarter of 2026. So with this, we have gone through the DSA approval of the plans. We have done almost all the bidding has been awarded already. We only have one bid packet that we still need to award. So we are going to be able to start construction at the end of December. That's when we're going to start doing immobilization of the field. The current budget is $36.4 million. That's total project cost. Our construction cost is just a little bit over $23 million. And this is basically being funded by our CC bond measure. Our second project that we currently have is our renovation of our current science building. This is one of our core buildings that we have on campus, built in the 1960s. So basically what we're trying to do is just preserve the structure of the building, but really gutting the entire building, roof, ceiling, everything in that space. And this is to provide the necessary equipment and facilities for our students. Currently, we've already gone through design, we've already gone through plan check. We are currently in construction, and occupancy is to be scheduled for the first quarter of 2026. So we did proceed with our notice of proceed August 1st. We have, as I mentioned, mobilized the area already. If you go out to look at it right now, basically it looks like one of the movie studios. It's just walls and there's nothing in there, no roof, nothing. It just looks like a facade. So again, just keeping our original structure and redoing the entire building. Our current budget is $15.4 million. This is a project that we did submit for the state for funding, and it was awarded. So the state is funding $7.3 million of this project. So that means we only need to use $8 million of our bond funds for that. So moving forward, we will also continue to be looking at any other projects that could qualify for state funding. So with that, I will hand it over to President Hope.
Thank you, Rod. These are really exciting times for us at the Palm Desert campus, but we're also going to talk about some other things going on just very quickly so you know what a dynamic environment College of the Desert is. We have a wide variety of academic offerings at College of the Desert. This year, we had our first graduating class of physical therapy assistant, and all of our students had job offers before they finished. So we're very excited about that as an addition to our curriculum. We also, it's not up here because it's so new, but we started a paramedic program this year. So that's brand new. We now have fire as well as EMT, and paramedic really kind of bridged those two programs. We also have 70 new spaces in our registered nursing classes. So we have a
How many is
total,
that for nursing?
we have a total of about 100 spaces in nursing now.
Just wanted to be sure to throw that out there. That's an amazing number, and the community's worked hard, so 100's amazing.
Thank you. And it's really thanks to the Healthcare Roundtable locally that provided a lot of donations to us for both equipment and renovation so we could increase the number of students who can join the program. Also wanted to note, we're really leaning into what we call our fast track courses. Our students are really taking to more accelerated learning opportunities. So rather than a 16.5-week semester, we are doing more and more in 12-week options and in 8-week options, pushing to that being about a third of our total offerings. Students do better, and they're more likely to be retained. And why is that? Because they're less likely to procrastinate. All right, we all procrastinate when we have the opportunity. We're also really building out what we call free early college. And so you might know it as dual enrollment, but we're kind of rebranding it as free early college to emphasize the fact that high school students can get a college education for free. So we're building out a lot of our dual and concurrent enrollment in all 3 districts that we serve. And right now, that's about 12% of our total offerings. By spring, it'll be probably about 15% of our total offerings. 64% increase total in FTES for that particular program. We also are building out a lot of holistic student support. We've built out a $5 book rental program because some textbooks can cost $300 to $400, and students can rent those texts for $5 because the barrier is now materials, not tuition. College of the Desert has a very robust tuition program through its Edge Pledge program. So we're trying to remove that barrier of costs for any kind of materials. We've also started an internship program you may have read about called the Power of 5. We have 5 employers offering 5 internships at each of their sites. We asked for 5. We now have 44 who are starting to participate with us. So we're very excited about that. Of course, our Edge Pledge program is very well known, our food pantry, and you may have heard about our transportation system called the Roadrunner Express. So we're very committed to making sure that we can eliminate as many barriers as possible for our students. The Roadrunner Express provides our students with a free shuttle service in between our campuses 3 times a day, one route in the West Valley, one route in the East Valley. Because as you all know, transportation is expensive, and some of our students live in households where they don't have a car available to them, and they rely on Sunline, a free bus pass called a Hall Pass through College of the Desert. And once they get to one of our campuses, we will get to them to the next campus that they might need to go to.
Quick question. It says Monday through Thursday. Is there a
Yes.
reason there's Friday is not in service?
We don't have as many courses on Fridays. We've only been running the program for one semester. We're in a data collection mode right now because we want to understand better where our students are coming from and where they're going, and also about their experience with the service. So we know we're going to need to look at things like route changes, including maybe an evening route. But we're trying to really make that evidence-based. So right now we're collecting more data about that. Also want to let you know we're having our groundbreaking for Roadrunner Motors on October 16th. So any of you are available to come. We're super excited to be opening this. And we are also having our grand opening for the Palm Springs campus, November 14th at 3 o'clock. A long-awaited event for many people in the community, and we're excited to celebrate it. And we'll be having groundbreaking as well for our athletic stadium. So lots of great things happening. I want to make sure that all of you know, since we are neighbors, we also are very pleased to have our partnership with the library on our campus. They've been terrific to work with. And it may be a little premature, but do want to let you know that we're also working with Jordan Schnitzer on an idea for an art museum on the campus site, and working on a letter of intent with him. And I don't know if I can say it, but I will. But Rod's talking to Starbucks about having a Starbucks on campus, which some of you might like too, since it's a short walk away. So we're working on a lot of different things, and thank you so much for your time. And we're just really excited to share everything that's happening at the college with you.
It's amazing. Do we have any comments or questions from my peers? Please.
All right. Excellent presentation. Thank you. Can you tell me when that stadium was built, the original stadium, just out of curiosity?
You know what? I don't know off the top of my head, but based on the structure, it's probably built in the 70s.
Okay, so it's due.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
I heard 63 tossed out there back somewhere.
Oh, maybe someone, okay.
63.
Local historian, thank you.
And I'll point out, if I'm not mistaken, that the Sunline Hall Pass can be used by students for any ride. It's not just specific to getting to school. So if they have part-time jobs to support their education, they can use the Hall Pass for that also. So it's a great program, a great benefit of being a student.
That's right. Councilmember Kelly, thank you for offering that. That's absolutely true.
Well, this is all exciting. I have so many things to say, and I'll hold my tongue on most of them. But I do want to point out that, we have some great small business entrepreneurs who would love to provide that coffee shop, College of the Desert.
I second that. Must support local.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Thank you. If there isn't anything else, please continue to accept our gratitude, our support, and knowing that education is transformative, and we're proud to have you here, and I'm just very excited for your growth. And thank you very much, Trustee Stefan, for what you do. It's a lot that goes overlooked and underappreciated. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
City manager comments. I see that we have an update on the Palm Desert iHub.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to turn this over to Eric Sahar, Director of Economic Development, to provide council and the public a quick update on how the iHub's doing.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor, members of City Council. In 2021, the city opened the Palm Desert iHub. And just in August, we heard a report from Dr. Ezekiel Bonias about the operations and expanding program that are being offered there at that site off Cook Street. Our partnership with the School of Entrepreneurship, which started this year, has started to expand and grow legs of its own and really offer a variety of programming for the entire community. Today, they're offering veteran programming, many MBA programs, different business and support consulting, and of course, the co-working and incubation space. We're excited to announce that through efforts of Dr. Michael Stoll and Dr. Ezekiel Bonillas, now Riverside County Office of Economic Development has stepped in and provided over $300,000 over the next 2 years to continue to expand the program offerings at the Palm Desert iHub. This greatly
What was that amount they've offered?
334,000.
Wow.
Yeah, this will greatly expand the program offerings that are currently being held at the Palm Desert iHub, strengthen our partnership with the county, but also continue to support all the efforts that are going on at this site.
That's excellent news. Questions or comments? All right, please give our thanks to our partners over at the iHub. Item number 11, Mayor and Council Member reports and requests for actions. Council Member Truby, any updates?
No comment at this time. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Just a couple of things. I'd like to mention that I was at Mini Muster. And it was great to see our fire professionals out there and all the work they do with our third graders. I was at Washington Charter and it was amazing. They were excited, they were learning, and it was wonderful to see the interaction. And they walked away with so much information about fire prevention, fire and planning for emergencies. It's a great effort. I know we do it every year. It's always wonderful to see. Today was the ribbon cutting for the Sunline Liquid Hydrogen Station, which is great to see. We need a place to stop in this valley where people can get hydrogen. And this will continue helping us with, and I know Councilmember Kelly can tell you a lot more about this than I could, but it will help us with the hydrogen fuel cell buses and really help that program move quickly. And that's all I have. And tomorrow, everyone, is Yom Kippur, and it's a good time to start thinking about what we can do better for the next year.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Nistande.
No comments this evening. Thank you.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes, just building on what the Mayor Pro Tem shared. We can be proud that our small transit agency is truly an international leader in pushing the boundaries of hydrogen fuel cell technology, which has the potential to be even cleaner than electric power, because the sole byproduct of electrolysis is oxygen. So Sunline aspires to be a hydrogen fueling station for both private and commercial vehicles as fleets are able to convert. And the vision of the board is to reach the point where we might have a cutting-edge microgrid in which solar power is used to perform the electrolysis for creation of the fuel that's needed for this technology. So it's quite exciting to have that in our backyard. So that's enough to share for one night.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, you have a request?
I do have a request. Recently, you know, it is silly season, so we're hearing lots of silly things. One of them, I heard someone saying that there is only a need to notify residents within 300 feet of a development project in Palm Desert. Now, I know anything that has any, the greater impact is 1,000 feet. I know that there are some projects that are of less consequence and less impact that we notify within 300 feet. I'd like us to look at that. Perhaps we should increase it, and maybe we can have a study session on that.
I think that that may have already been part of a conversation, but I look forward to ensuring that we have the best policies, that our residents are notified of any changes that will impact them.
I second that for a study session.
As far as the most salient event that I attended was the animal shelter campus meeting, and that was a 4-hour meeting with a lot of public engagement and comments, including those that were sent into the council, was regarding the contract for a $2.5 million contract for 2 years for a consultant. And I, in addition to requesting the an update on the fee study, because that we had extended a 1 year instead of a 3-year to see if the city can enforce the fee study that was promised. So we keep hearing they'll have it, but I hope that through the city we can ensure that we are able to press for that. And we learned that the County of Riverside is offering to cover half the cost of spay and neuter events such as buses. And there are a series of events that are already planned for District 4. So I would love to have the opportunity. We've already allotted in our budget to have spay and neuter events. But if we have them and now we can double the offering, some of them are listed as wellness events and spay and neuter events specifically. We've got our dog park that's being renovated. I think that would be a great way in relaunching and saying we're now open, and we're open as partners to keep your furry family members healthy and safe. So I hope I can get support to utilize matching funds from the county.
I believe staff's already working on scheduling those events.
My request is to double the amount.
I understand that. I believe staff is already, I believe Supervisor Perez's office has already communicated with staff to accomplish that.
Great news. Sorry, I'm taking my notes here. Let's see, after that, we move on to 12, non-agenda public comments. Oh, one last thing I did have on here. Loving All Animals, one of the Valley's most dedicated nonprofit for animals. Lindy Beege was at the meeting with a brand new Mercedes. And it's not just there to show off she's got excellent taste, but it is being auctioned. And the proceeds will be going to help support the animal shelter with spay and neuter events. So it is on their website, lovingallanimals.org. If you would be so inclined and want to bid on a Mercedes, then there you go. It goes for a good cause. So once again, non-agenda public comments. This time has been set aside for the public to address the City Council on issues that are not on the agenda for up to 3 minutes. Speakers may utilize one of the 3 options listed on the first page of the agenda. Because the Brown Act does not allow the City Council to act on items not listed on the agenda, members may briefly respond or refer the matter to staff for a report and recommendation at a future meeting. We have a few here present, but I wanted to double check. Do we have any online comments?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
And for those on Zoom, if you want to participate in public comment, please click the raise hand button on your computer or smartphone. And if you're joining by calling in on your phone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. And when called upon, press *6 to unmute yourself. And we have a speaker with a number ending in 79.
Hi, this is Sharon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Hi, council members. This is Sharon Master Pietro from Palm Desert. In case you didn't have a chance to read my email, I just wanted to share some things with it now that I, along with 1,000 other people, more than 1,000 other people now, strongly oppose the recent approved Riverside County Animal Services consulting contract with the company Outcome for Pets. I want to highlight 3 of the key concerns. Number 1 is the excessive cost. The $2.5 million 2-year contract could be better spent on actionable solutions addressing the shelter's needs In fact, as we spoke about, Lindy Biggie, founder of Loving All Animals, shared her thoughts on this during public comment at the Board of Supervisors meeting on October 8th. And I emailed the council members a link to her speech, so I'm hoping that you can listen to that. Second thing is the lack of transparency. The supervisors awarded this as a sole source contract, bypassing public input and the Animal Commission's involvement, raising serious concerns about transparency. Mayor Quintanilla also mentioned this lack of transparency at last week's Animal Commission meeting. And I have an update about more lack of transparency. So Supervisors Perez and Gutierrez, they are the ad hoc committee for animal services, and they held one meeting in September where they decided to move the consultant contract forward. I've been asking for the minutes from that meeting, and I just heard back from the county. They said no one took minutes at that meeting, and I was surprised because they didn't think that they should have someone taking minutes when it's such an important topic and such a large sum of money. And my third concern is the inhumane practices. The consultant's intake policies used in other communities have led to harmful outcomes, as she discourages taking in lost and stray animals. In my email to the council, I included an example from the consultant's Facebook page showing what she and her spouse neglected to do with a dog that was lost. So council, we all encourage you to contact the Board of Supervisors and ask them to terminate the contract. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Any additional comments?
Not online, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Our first public speaker, please, Mike Morsch. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, City Council, staff. I'd like to speak today about Measure G, the 1% sales tax. The city general fund projected revenue of 83.2 million and expenditures of 82.9 million, with expenses that have risen over 10% and cleanup costs touching 6 million from Tropical Storm Hillary, in addition to police services, trash, and so many other increases that all of us are well aware of. Projections indicate a deficit of 14 million within 5 years. The 1% tax will take Palm Desert from 7.75% to 8.75%. It will approximately add 26 million to the general fund in order to support building and maintaining a fire department in the northern portion of the city and renovate our 2 other stations. It will allow the city to add more police. Here are the spending priorities. Fire Station 102 construction and staffing, Fire Station 33 and 71 reconstruction and upgrading to increase police staffing. Implement better flood control infrastructure and emergency planning and public works staffing. It will also help to establish the library construction and staffing along with the Northern Sphere Regional Park. This support for Measure G crosses political boundaries, as for myself, president of Palm Desert Republican Club, along with the support of Ralph Perry, president of Palm Desert Democrat Club, bears the fact that this is a measure so important that all residents of Palm Desert should and must get behind and vote yes on G. I encourage news outlets to use your platform in support of this measure, as we, the residents of Palm Desert, appreciate the amenities we have living in this city and have the desire to move forward without cuts to programs and staffing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Peggy Crowley.
Not very professional.
You're here and that's what matters.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. I'll read from my printed prepared speech.
And I ask you to lean in just a little louder so everyone can hear you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Oh,
you.
that was too loud. My name is Peggy Crowley, a resident of Palm Desert for the last 4 years, but only recently have become aware of the serious problem our Riverside County animal shelters are experiencing. I've heard that there are several of you on the Palm Desert City Council who are supportive of trying to create improvement at the shelters, and I want to thank you for that. If people have already spoken today about the contract between Riverside County and Outcomes for Pets Consulting, please know that I concur with my neighbors' viewpoints. If people haven't already spoken today about that contract, I would like to encourage you to keep encouraging the Board of Supervisors to cancel that contract. The $2.5 million could be used for actual work instead of advice, and advice we now know isn't good. I found out after I had already spoken to the Board of Supervisors at Tuesday's meeting that the 30-day cancellation clause can be applied at any point during the term of the contract, not just the first 30 days. So you have time to continue to educate the Board of Supervisors on that topic. 2 more things I would like to cover are, if euthanasia needs to be performed on dogs and cats, if you can somehow work with the Department of Supervisors to find room in their budget to cover the cost of the first shot that should be getting administered to these doomed animals, which makes them sleepy before the second shot is administered, the one that stops their heart, please do. I only recently learned that the first shot is not administered throughout the county-run shelters, and sometimes it takes a long time for the dogs to die. They have to be held down and they're so scared. Imagine being the people who have to perform that function. It must break them. Lastly, apparently the surrender fee at the county shelters, or at least CVAC, was recently increased to $200 per animal, whereas it had previously been $50. Please encourage the Department of Supervisors to lower that cost back down or even make it lower. There are so many poor people, especially at the east end of our valley, who can't afford that cost. And a lot of our neighbors are concerned that people will dump their pets because they can't afford the price. I think the majority of our citizens believe the county shelters aren't run with the idea of being a money-making business, but are actually true shelters for the animals who can't speak for themselves. Thank you so much for your attention, consideration, and all the work you're doing to make our valley better. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Connor Lamont.
Good afternoon. My name is Connor Lamont. I live in Palm Desert. I've been here for about 24 years, and it dawned on me that I'm one of the last people that worked on the Hillside Ordinance, so I thought I'd give just a little bit of background since it's coming up. Some of the most, and again, I'll read from what I've prepared, some of the most fascinating features of the Coachella Valley are the surrounding mountains, the Joshua Hills, the San Bernardinos, the Little San Bernardinos, and the San Jacinto Santa Rosa National Monument. These areas provide an unimpeded look at the nature surrounding our incredible home with one common denominator. They are in their natural state. They are free of buildings, and this did not happen by chance or accident or luck. It has been an unwavering battle for over 40 years to keep these areas free from visual development. Years ago, our City Council and Planning Commission realized that the Cahuilla Hills were precious, and with their proximity to Palm Desert proper, also in danger. There were several projects that sounded the alarm bells, but none quite as loud as the Riverside County in the early 2000s, allowing home building that would impact Palm Desert directly. These homes would be in the county, just above Stone Eagle and south, but directly in the view corridor of all of Palm Desert and beyond. We were fortunate at the time to have involved citizens, but more importantly, we had a city council that took up the issue with the Riverside County Board of Supervisors. In the end, the Board of Supervisors agreed not to allow building in that area. In the words of Supervisor Roy Wilson, we've done enough damage to the Cahuilla Hills. Following this series of events, Palm Desert spent an inordinate amount of time creating and putting the Hillside Ordinance in place to preserve this area. They specifically looked to limit any further building in the Cahuilla Hills within Palm Desert. Up until recently, this ordinance has been followed and, more importantly, honored. However, a recent project blew the doors right off that ordinance as the city simply said yes to a short-term rental build on Upper Way West without applying any of the essence of the Hillside Ordinance to commissions A majority of the city council basically threw the concerns of the Palm Desert residents out and said to a non-resident, build what you want. We don't care. The city has an opportunity to put the hillside ordinance back in its proper place at the very top of any suggested building in the Cahuilla Hills. I would encourage this council to actually go out and see these beautiful hills and spend at least a moment to understand why the governing body of this city at that time took almost 4 years to write this ordinance, pass it legally through every step of the way, putting it out to the residents, the planning commission, and finally city council for approval. We may disagree on a number of issues, but it is hard to find anyone that enjoys living in this valley that doesn't love the Cahuilla Hills. You five have the ability to govern with care.
Thank you so very much. Your time is up, but Mr. City Manager, I would like some more information on this.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have an item on the agenda later that should add a little bit more context.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure if that was a similar one. That being our final public comment, we move on to item number 13, the consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and may be approved by one motion. The public may comment on any items on the consent agenda within the 3-minute time limit. Individual items may be removed by the City Council for a separate discussion. I see there is a speaker requesting to address 13H. Are there any other items that my peers would like to discuss or remove? Okay, can I get a motion to pass the remainder?
So moved.
Second.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 13H. Item 13H is the Third Amendment and restated DDLA and actions related to the conveyance of the parcels identified as APN 694-120-028 and a portion of 694-120-029 for affordable housing. Oh, I do apologize. Thank you for that. Before we continue, there was one card that slipped through. Dean Gatton, please. My apologies. Dean Gatton, I accidentally left off one of the speaker cards from public, for non-agenda public comment.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff, for everything you do for the city of Palm Desert. We've been here 17 years, and we're very grateful we have been here, raised our family. Just a couple things. First off would be, as we've entered the districts within our town, just to encourage or suggest that on the website, when each of you, your bios are there, if it could be added which district you're in. I'm having a hard time figuring it out. People have asked me. So the suggestion, once again, would be if each council member's district is listed under their bio, I think it would help. Secondly would be, I appreciate the feedback I received in regards to a Portola interchange off the 10 freeway. Totally follow the factors that are involved, especially the finances. Areas concerns that I have with traffic within our town. One is Hoveley Lane. Hoveley Lane is a passageway between Monterey and Portola. It's an Autobahn. There is no speed limit because it's not enforced. Last week at 10 a.m., as I was driving down Hoveley, a car in front of me did not like the speed limit the one in front of them was going. So they used the center yellow area to pass that car. It's a very dangerous area, and if we're not going to have an interchange to help impede or reduce the amount of traffic on Hoveley West, I encourage that that be reviewed. Secondly would be Costco and the gas, especially the folks entering to receive gas. It's very dangerous, and now that season has begun, I'm very concerned with the traffic getting off of Monterey. The fact that Costco is there, I highly encourage that Costco move, add, or do what they can to the gas area to help eliminate those difficulties there. Thirdly, I should say, is that Rancho Mirage is now adding an additional retail complex behind Home Depot on Monterey. So therefore, traffic will be increasing there. And then lastly is our dear Cotino will be going in with just shy of 2,000 homes, 2,000 homes. And so therefore, yes, they can use they can use Bob Hope to get off, but I highly suspect Monterey will be the main thoroughfare given the fact the retails that are there. So given the fact that there's once again Hoveley West, the retail complex that's being added, Costco, as well as Cotino, I'm highly encouraging to please look at traffic within our town. Very grateful once again to live here, raised our family here. I recently retired and very happy to say that I'm in the town that I want to retire in. And I started this week, and I'll look forward to showing you around training at the Living Desert. So I'll be more than happy to show you where the giraffes and the rhinoceros are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, my apologies for having your card slip through.
And Madam Mayor?
Yes.
The speaker for 13H would like to withdraw. It was intended to just be available for questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
So since we have already passed the remainder of the consent calendar excluding H, can I get a motion to approve H?
Move approval of H.
Second.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, moving on to the action calendar. Action calendar. The public may comment on individual action items within the 3-minute time limit. Speakers may utilize one of the 3 options listed on the first page of the agenda. Before we jump in, do we have any comments on the action calendar?
Not at this time, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much. Item 14A, 2025 California Desert Plein Air Festival funding.
Good afternoon. I'm Thomas Soul, your Public Affairs Manager, and you have before you a staff report about a sponsorship for the California Desert Plein Air Festival. It's a $25,000 sponsorship, and half of that money would come from the Public Art Fund, which was approved by the Cultural Arts Committee. The other half would come from the marketing co-op funds, which have already been budgeted to support projects that promote the city's brand and have the potential to increase the city's transient occupancy tax, or TOT, revenue. Plein air is about leaving the 4 walls of the studio behind and experiencing painting and drawing in the actual landscape that is being captured in, or that is being captured. And artists who participate in this festival will capture landscapes across the Coachella Valley, but the festival itself will be centered here in Palm Desert at the Artist Center at the Galen. The festival is in its 4th year, or 25th iteration, will be the 4th year. And this year they decided that the festival had a lot of potential and could use some help to really grow to fit that potential. So they've renamed it to be the California Desert Plein Air Festival. And they've brought on Palm Springs Life to help promote it with media promotion and then also to seek sponsorships. And unfortunately, that decision was reached after the city's time limit for entering our sponsorship process had finished. Despite that fact, staff concurs that this is a valuable sponsorship for the city and worth council's consideration for an initial 1-year sponsorship. After that, the sponsorship would go through the city's regular process. In making this recommendation, staff assessed a few different things, including the estimated TOT revenue, potential economic impact to the local business community, the direct and indirect media value, and the effect that the festival could have on Palm Desert branding. This in addition to all of the pluses that come along with an art event such as this for the community. So looking at TOT, based on the information that was provided in the sponsorship package that you received, staff estimates that the TOT value back to the city would be about $13,500. And then the local economic impact would be about $89,000. And I want to point out that that estimation is based only on the attendees that we think would be coming from out of town and would not include any money spent by local people who attended the festival. There's also a direct media value from several ads that come along with the sponsorship. There's a full-page ad in the January issue of Palm Springs Life that would cost us $4,740 if we were to buy it outright, which is a terrific value add for the sponsorship. And then an ad in the festival program as well, which reaches a targeted audience that matches well with Palm Desert with our public art program. Another benefit that particularly appeals to me doing the marketing for the city is that this would join some of our other signature events in creating a through line of art events that really set Palm Desert apart, including the Palm Desert Choreography Festival, Fashion Week El Paseo, and Palm Desert Food and Wine. Having a series of events like this makes it a narrative that we can pitch for PR and just in terms of talking about the city, it really fleshes it out in a nice way, gives us a nice variety of events that sets the city apart on that front. And then, as I mentioned, the Cultural Arts Committee unanimously supported this funding at their meeting. And I also want to mention that as we've been talking with art galleries on El Paseo about different things, we received a lot of enthusiasm about the idea of this festival. It's something that the art galleries can work with. They look forward to having the participants in town. There are several galleries that feature plein air art in general. And so it's a really exciting opportunity for them as well. So all of this combined together results in our recommendation to approve this initial one-year sponsorship of $25,000 for the festival. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions or comments? Yes, please.
So the Cultural Arts Committee is using their own budget, then it's not technically coming from the Palm Desert.
Half of the money would be $12,500 is coming from public art funds.
Mhm.
And then the other half would be coming from the marketing budget.
Okay, and what that 12,500 from the Cultural Arts Committee, what are they not doing now with that 12,500 that they would have done? Would it affect like an art sculpture that they were going to purchase or anything like that?
Hi, Erica Powell, Management Analyst for Public Art. We have budgeted for community events such as this, and we would not be removing anything from our budget to take this forward, as we have had other projects within our professional services / community event funding, which is 5% of our budget. We have that available for spend. So there's nothing being removed from our fiscal year spend.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Yes, please.
All right, thank you, Thomas. I noticed in the staff report, it mentioned anticipated 2,000 to 3,000 attendees total. What have they had in years past? You said this is the fourth year?
Yeah, I did. Okay, they've had 1,400 in the past.
Okay. And I noticed also that it takes place over the course of about 19 days or 19 separate events.
Yeah.
So the attendee count, is that calculated per day? In other words, would it be like roughly 100, 150 people a day, each day over the course of the 19?
Over the course, we would expect 2,000 to 3,000 people.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, we were presented with something a few weeks ago, if we recall, about the Tour de Palm Springs. And, you know, there was a strong argument against it because they had applied for this outside of the typical grant period. Same argument can be made here that this would be almost given, I know the money's coming from separate sources. And we were asking for the Tour de Palm Springs. That's one concern I have, that we would be given consideration to this event and not using a different, the same argument that we use for the Tour de Palm Springs. But that's just a concern for food for thought for the rest of you. But I like the idea of this. I'm in favor of it for sure. But that's just want to raise those points. Thank you.
Yes, please. Actually, yeah, go ahead. I wasn't sure which click I heard first, please.
Yeah, and I appreciate that concern because we do try to be very even-handed. What strikes me as different here is that there are funds which have been budgeted for this sort of thing. Both the pots from which staff is encouraging us to draw have been budgeted to accomplish this sort of thing. And I'm further impressed with the degree of specificity in what the city will gain from the sponsorship and the precise information about what that marketing would cost us if we purchased it on the market, which gives us some added verification that the investment is appropriate. So those are the distinctions that occur to me.
I would like to just add that because it is coming from existing funds from the arts and marketing budgets that we have approved, that's an important distinction because at first, when I was reading about this item, I immediately thought of the Tour de Palm Springs as well. And my first reaction was to say no, just because we need to be consistent. But this is slightly different because, again, it's coming from the arts and marketing budgets and not at the expense of something else that was going to be purchased. So for me, I think this would be a good thing.
If I may.
Yes, please.
I agree with what has been said. These are previously allocated funds that we put aside so that we do have these when something like this comes up. We didn't have that. I'm glad that everybody's thinking in terms of budget. That's good news. And it's important. But this has been budgeted for in essence. And I have a really important question. Is that painting that would be on the left, is that a Snake Jagger? It is, isn't it? Okay. I think it's great. It fits into the folio of all of our marketing types of events where we're brand building. Palm Springs Life has shown themselves to be a great partner, really helping to establish and expand Palm Desert's brand. So I appreciate that. And for all of those reasons, I would support it. And if everyone's ready, I would also move approval.
My
second
last
that.
comment
Oh, sorry.
before we get there, the discussions at the committee meeting were part of it discussing that there's a long history of that here in the desert, and little tidbit of trivia, Painter's Path got its name because people would come out and do the plein air painting and then let them dry there. So that was, I found very interesting. So this allows the opportunity for a novice. It allows for someone with experience. And as mentioned, this isn't coming out of the general fund. This is something that supports the city's mission and vision. And it seems like we've got some consensus. There's a first and a second. So I believe that we should just take a vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Item 14B, adopt a policy for notifying homeowners associations as part of the building permit process.
Madam Mayor, Richard Canoni, Director of Development Services, for the record. We're actually asking that this item be pulled from the agenda. We'd like to take this out and meet with a number of the HOAs throughout the city and get their feedback prior to considering this item.
Thank you very much. That sounds very prudent. Okay, item 14C. Those are the public hearings. The public may comment on individual public hearing items within the 3-minute time limit. The applicant or appellant will be provided up to 5 minutes to make their presentation. Speakers may utilize one of the three options listed on the first page of the agenda, and at the request of the city clerk, we will take item A as the last item. So public item hearing 15B, adopt substantial amendment to the annual action plan program year 2020 community development block grant. Public hearing now open.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of City Council. My name is Joe Barron. I'm the Contracts and Grants Analyst. Today, this item I bring in front of you is the public hearing for the substantial amendment of our Community Development Block Grant Program. This is for program year 20. During that program year, we received 2 funding allocations for the COVID relief funds, which amounted to $851,000. And we expended about $500,000 of those funds. Thank you. And we continue to spend down those dollars. So this substantial amendment will move some of those funds from some of the activities that we are no longer utilizing to fund the rehab of the Jocelyn Center and the Palma Village park improvements for $176,000. Here are the programs that we funded, some of the programs that we funded during 2020. And the substantial amendment will move some of those dollars to those 2 projects I mentioned earlier. With that, that concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Questions, comments?
Nope. I'll make a motion. Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
Absolutely, that's what I was doing. Yes, thank you.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item C, introduce an ordinance amending Palm Desert Municipal Code, Chapter 5.10, short-term rentals. Adopt a policy for short-term rental hardship extension for the Hillside Planned Residential Zone and make a finding of exemption under CEQA. Hearing is now open. Who will be providing who will start?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council. Again, Richard Cannoni for the record. The item tonight that we'd like to present is both a code update as well as a hardship extension policy. We've been working with the Council Ad Hoc Short-Term Rental Subcommittee meeting over the last 6 months in putting this together. It actually goes back even further. If you recall, we had, as part of a cleanup item about a year ago, we had pulled this section out to make sure that we did additional research with the HOAs to make sure there were no unintended consequences as a result of some of the proposed changes. And so that's what sort of is the product of tonight. And so with that, I'll go ahead and just jump into some of the major items that we wanted to point out. The first is really clarifying the current implementation of the short-term rental ordinance. And so what we did is we've updated definition, clarified terms, and really made distinctions between the 2 types of short-term rental permits, both on-site and off-site. So on-site means the owner stays during the duration of the rental period, and an off-site obviously is renting it out, and they are not on-site. We also listed the zones where short-term rentals are permitted rather than just listing the zones where they're prohibited to avoid any misinterpretation or confusion. In addition to that, we also included prohibited unit types such as ADUs, apartments. We also clarified that if it is an on-site short-term rental, you must have more than 1 bedroom to avoid renting the living room or something else in a unit for an on-site rental. In addition to that, we had heard from a number of homeowners and permittees that were on-site owners that had a casita. And in the past, there has been various changes in how this was interpreted as to whether or not they can stay in their home and rent their casita, or stay in their house, rent the casita, or vice versa. And so this was something that we had talked about with the subcommittee and felt as though as long as they were staying on the property, whether it's in a bedroom or in the casita, it really didn't matter, and it did provide for some additional income for individuals who are an on-site owner. In addition, we also clarified the exceptions for planned residential. And while the PowerPoint one thing I wanted to note, I've made some minor modifications to the presentation that's in front of you. That's a little bit different than the one that was uploaded earlier. And what those changes are is there was a redlined version of the regulations that have been passed out. Ironically, for the most part, the PowerPoint presentation, the way it described it, was correct. And so what we did was clarify that language within the code. And so for offsite short-term rentals, if an owner is within a functioning HOA, which is now a defined term, they may operate an offsite short-term rental if it's allowed by state law in the functioning HOAs, current CC&Rs. And by functioning HOAs, the simplest way I can describe that is we have a number of HOAs within the city that were set up in place of a lighting and landscape district. And so what we wanted to do is sort of remove that loophole. So if they don't regulate use or truly function as an HOA, then those short-term rentals should not be permitted to be within that PR zone. So again, it would have to be a functioning HOA. And so before, if we got a letter from the HOA where there wasn't an opposition, typically they could be permitted. We currently don't have any. So we don't think that this is really an issue, but we wanted to clarify it moving forward. And then in addition to that, for on-site short-term rental owners, this is something that we did find out through that research of the various HOAs, where the HOA requirement that was previously required for off-site, it wasn't required for on-site. And so we did have a few on-site short-term rental permits that were issued within HOA communities where they were actually completely prohibited. And so while, again, it's really more of a civil issue, we wanted to be good partners and just include that so we know that if it is in a functioning HOA and you want to do an on-site, we'll allow it, provided it's not prohibited by your HOA. And then we also clarified that the prior prohibition of offsite short-term rentals in the R1 also applied to R1M. So there was a change some years back, I think in 2017, to prohibit R1 and R2 offsite short-term rentals, and that should have carried down to the R1M as well. Which also leads me now to the second major component of changes. When there were changes to the PR zone, we believed it probably should have also, the intent was to apply to the Hillside Plan residential as well, especially given the context of that zone. And so what we really tried to do was address that misapplication by prohibiting off-site short-term rentals unless it's permitted by a functioning HOA. And so essentially that same language that would apply to the PR zone, which would also apply to short-term rentals in the HPR. So in short, unless you're in a functioning HOA, you cannot have an off-site short-term rental. You could have an on-site short-term rental, but you may not be able to have an on-site short-term rental if you're in a functioning HOA that prohibits it. Hopefully that makes sense. And then there were some additional other clarifications that we did include, that no new off-site short-term rental permits will be issued. We do have 5 existing off-site short-term rentals. They may be renewed. However, they must terminate and cease operation by December 31st, 2026. And so we're giving a 2-year sort of amortization time, similar to what was done in 2017. Owners may apply for a hardship extension. And then again, if a short-term rental permit is revoked for not following the regulations, a new permit will not be issued during that 2-year period. And then with that leads me to the hardship policy. And so I put this up just because this was the one that was that I referenced in the staff report and is included as part of the resolution. The policy that was adopted in 2017, that was enacted through 2019. So it provided that 2-year timeframe, as well as that the ability to apply if you can prove that the 2-year period was not enough time to recover your investment into that short-term rental. And so what we did for what we're recommending for the current policy is essentially reenact that same policy. The only thing we really did was change the dates. So that would be in effect December 1, 2024 of this year, where you could apply through August 1, 2026. But that 2-year amortization period would essentially run from December of this year through December 31st of 2026. We did add 2 additional eligibility criteria for this. And the first is the availability that it's only available exclusively to short-term rental owners who have consistently paid the transit occupancy tax in Tourism Business Improvement District assessment. In addition, if the owner has not made any TOT or TBID payments for more than half of the permit's effective duration, it will be presumed that no hardship exists. And so they will have to prove to us that they have, in fact, continuously paid, that they are not rushing to make one payment to get caught up because they haven't paid. But in addition, they would have to pay more than half of that effective duration. And so those are some additional criteria that we included for those 5 existing short-term rentals. And with that, we recommend that we have the public hearing, introduce the ordinance, and adopt the policy as provided in the attached. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone that is speaking either for or against?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Yes.
We did get an email regarding this. Do you feel that you satisfied the person who wrote the email with your answer?
I do. In fact, after that email, I had tried to call him again, and we have since traded some additional emails. And I did let him know right before the start of the meeting that we had made those changes, and I believe he was satisfied.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. In that case, I will, yes, please.
I think we can understand this as staff presented it as achieving further refinement and clarity to express prior intentions and assure that the hillside PR zoned areas are treated the same as other PR zones. So I will move to approve.
We do. I'm not there yet. I was going to say that I appreciate, again, as mentioned, the clarity, especially the component of the casitas, because that can be a little tricky in terms of how people defined it. So that one in particular, I appreciate that. So now I close the public hearing.
And now I'll move to approve.
And I'll second.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 15D, introduction of an ordinance to add Chapter 12.36 to Title 12 of the Palm Desert Municipal Code, reestablishing the public right-of-way vacation procedures and making a finding under exemption of CEQA. Good afternoon, Mr. Maloney.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. Nick Maloney with the Planning Division, bringing for you an item for a proposed ordinance. This is an ordinance that would add a chapter to the municipal code regarding street vacations. And this was prepared based on prior direction from the city council to add additional policies and establish some baseline procedures. This is a public hearing and it was noticed in accordance with local and state law. We have not received any comments on the proposed ordinance. Action is also subject to the California Environmental Quality Act and may be found exempt pursuant to guidelines section 15061 subsection B3, which is the common sense exception. Just for general background, right-of-way includes, it's public area that is dedicated for a public purpose, and that's most commonly for access, pedestrian access, or vehicular access, sidewalks and streets. It may also include public service easements, which in Palm Desert are commonly drainage easements on private property. When public right-of-way or public service easements is found to be no longer needed, the public right to use that can be abandoned through a process called vacation. The state law outlines a general procedure for vacations in the Street and Highway Code. The city has no local ordinance currently and therefore follows state law. As a charter city, we can adopt a local ordinance to expand upon those minimum state procedures. And on April 25th of 2024, the city council directed city staff and the city attorney to prepare additional requirements to ensure that compensation may occur when it's appropriate as a part of a vacation process. And so we've prepared it based on that. We'll outline some of the main policy points. So the first point to add is a general policy statement, which generally indicates that the preference is to allow for conditional limited use of public right-of-way as opposed to the outright abandonment or vacation of it. Just so that at the inception of an application, that is known by an applicant and to staff on what the preference is. Because the city may set terms, impose conditions as it deems necessary, limit the types of uses and ensure that it is temporary through either an encroachment permit or a license agreement of some type. Additionally, the ordinance will establish or outline the procedures better so it's clear to follow for staff. This typically follows the state ordinance requirement. It also adds, as a part of the staff review, a requirement for an appraisal report. Any applicant making a request for a vacation will be required to submit a written appraisal to determine the value of the area to be vacated, to determine if compensation is warranted and possible and what the value of that would be. I do want to note that right-of-way can be dedicated either by easement or by fee simple, and in abandoning it, it reverts back to the underlying owner. So in some cases, there may be no compensation if it reverts back to the owner as that property. If the city is the original owner, then there would be a potential compensation. And that would be determined in the review process with a title report. So those are the main points of the ordinance. And with that, staff is recommending that you pass it to second reading as presented. Thank you.
Questions or comments? None, seeing none. Public hearing closed.
Move to approve.
And Madam Mayor, I just want to note for the record, there was no online public comment.
Thank you.
I will second.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 15E, introduction of an ordinance updating the Palm Desert Municipal Code, Chapter 2.18, Building Board of Appeals and making findings under CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council. Again, for the record, Richard Canoni, Director of Development Services. The item in front of you this evening for consideration is essentially the same item that was brought forward on 9/13 at a study session. And so this presentation may look very familiar because there were no changes as a result of what was presented and the input from council. And so really it's to focus on clarifying the appeal procedures, updating the board membership requirements, and then again clarifying the decision authority for the BBA. And with that, staff recommends approving it on first reading.
Any questions or comments? Any public comments?
No public comment, Madam Mayor.
My only comment is thank you. I know this was quite a lengthy process, and thanks for all that work. Thanks for all of that. I know it was a substantial, heavy lift to say the least. So thank you for that. I close the hearing. Motion?
Move to approve.
I will second.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 15F, adopt a resolution amending the transportation uniform mitigation fee applicable to all developments in the city of Palm Desert and findings of the action exempt from CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines, section 15378.
Can I just, do we have to move to accept the staff's recommendation?
I thought that's what we did for 15E, was it not?
On F?
Oh, no, you don't need to make a motion. This is to continue to a date uncertain.
Thank you.
So that's all that we needed to hear. I was waiting to hear that from staff. I was expecting Richard to chime in. So with staff's recommendation being to continue the item to a date uncertain, are there any comments before we accept?
No
Thank-
public comments.
Perfect, thank you. Hearing is closed. Anyone care to move? Oh, sorry, it was an accept, okay. Having concluded item 15F, we now resume item 15A, in which I believe we have a recusal.
Yes, I need to disqualify myself pursuant to the Levine Act.
So item 15A is consideration to approve a precise plan amendment for a 1,103 square foot guest house at 72240 Upper Way West.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Carlos Flores, Principal Planner, here to present on today's proposal. The proposal in front of you today is a request by Michael Riley, an applicant, for a consideration to approve an amendment for a guest house located at 72240 Upper Way West. This is an amendment to a previously approved precise plan to construct a 1,103 square foot guest house on a property which has an existing single family home within the Hillside Preservation residential zone. Precise Plan 21-0005 was previously approved by the City Council back in 2022. Subsequent to this, the applicant worked on construction drawings and started construction on this guest house that was approved. And in that construction discovered that it was being proposed within an easement that doesn't allow structures. At that time, in coordination with city staff, construction was halted, guest house was demolished, and they submitted an application to amend this approved guest house to a location that was outside of that easement. That is what is in front of you today. It is essentially the same guest house that was previously approved, just moved further north to be outside of that easement, and also a couple architectural changes in response to ARC. Here in front of you is a vicinity map to show where it is located. So it is west of Highway 74. You can see it's located off Upper Way West. On the left-hand side, you will see the location, the arrows pointing to the location of roughly where the guest house would be located. Directly north of it is the single-family residence that is currently existing. So again, excuse me, the applicant's proposing to amend the approved plan. Since it is a project within the Hillside zone, it requires this Hillside application to go all the way from ARC, Planning Commission, and all the way up to the City Council for final approval. The applicant has revised the location. It is set back 26 feet from their side property line and over 100 feet from the rear. Again, there is no modifications to the rest of the property originally approved project. The project sits on a just above a 5-acre lot. The existing single-family home is 2,873 square feet. Much of the site on that 5 acres is undevelopable due to the steep terrain. Here is a site plan that was within your packet. It meets all of the development standards within our code, including lot coverage. The zone allows a lot coverage of 10%, And with the proposal of this guest house, they would be at 1.8%. You'll see on that site plan where the proposed casita is outside of that restricted building area and how it relates to the existing residence, which has Upper Way West running through it. As a response to when this item was brought to Planning Commission, the applicant provided updated line of sight drawings that were within your packet. I'm going to run through them. They provided line of sight drawings to try to provide renderings of what it would look like within Stone Eagle and then within along Highway 74 and a couple other spots. So here is a rendering trying to show what the guest house would look like if it were to be constructed. This is within Stone Eagle. You'll see the Stone Eagle maintenance building here and how it might look with the ridge lines throughout there. This is the Desert Flower Community. So it is located here. Again, it is in the similar location to what was previously approved, but pushed further north, which actually hides it a bit better behind those ridge lines. Here is the line of sight drawings provided from Highway 74. So you can see, as you see on the bottom right, plate 8, not visible from Highway 74 as proposed. So this is one of the changes that was done to it. On the left-hand side is the one currently proposed. On the right-hand side is what was approved. So all the architecture is the same. There was one change where they removed the stone veneer. This was in response to a comment from our Architecture Review Commission where they removed that stone veneer, but everything else, including the general design and the color palette, is approved. The color palette is meant to blend to the nature around it. So this here is, again, our ARC reviewed it and approved it. And then our Planning Commission on August 20th also adopted a resolution to approve this project as presented. Sorry, to recommend City Council approve the project as presented. So city staff has reviewed this in accordance with CEQA, and we find that it is exempt from CEQA as a Class 3 exemption. That exemption is intended for projects that are new construction of small structures. Additionally, we provided public notice for this meeting. Sorry, that should say for the City Council meeting. The public outreach for this meeting is done to a radius of 4,000 feet. So all properties within 4,000 feet of the site were notified. We did receive 2 letters, which you received in your packet for this proposal, one in support and one in opposition. With all of that said, staff's recommendation is to adopt a resolution approving this proposal. Concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions, please?
Thank you. The restricted zone in which the original casita was built, why was that restricted? Under what, I thought there was a covenant in the real estate transaction originally, if I remember.
Correct. My recollection of it, it's a restriction placed by, it was found within the title report, but put on by the original development and a surrounding neighbor. The applicant might better explain some of the details on that if
I'd
available.
be curious to know, if you don't mind, why it was restricted originally, or why that portion of the lot was restricted.
And if we can be sure that we get all of the other questions before we have you come forward. Do you have any questions?
Well, I don't have questions. I was more of a comment that we basically have already approved this project, and it's unfortunate they spent all the money to get the guest house started only to have to tear it down. So in my opinion, we're basically approving what we already approved if we decide to approve.
Thank you. Yes, please, Mayor Pro Tem.
We heard earlier for someone who really should have held her comments till this agenda item, because the comments were about this agenda item. And it is what she was talking about were the years that the councils have studied the ridge lines and put into place ordinances that would protect the ridge lines, protect the view corridors, protect the views, and protect the Cahuilla mountains and hills next to Palm Desert. And that's what her comments were about, but it was really about this project. I would like to see how this fits in with our ordinances, because if I remember right, there is wording in our ordinance that says it is to blend into the hillside. And I don't see this project doing that. And we have always held great respect for our mountains and really held them in high regard. And I don't see us upholding that in this project. I would like, if we may, I wouldn't mind, I think it would be helpful if we could continue this, and go up, look at the property and make an assessment, not based on the pictures. And the pictures are great, and I appreciate all of the plates and the views and the vistas, what we may or may not see. I think it's far more important for us to go up there and really have good information. I found it interesting when we looked at the Architectural Review Committee, two of our longest standing commissioners who really know that information that we heard spoken of previously are the ones who voted no. And so it's in the best interest of the city to, I believe, continue this. And let's go take a look at the project, put our feet on the land, understand what we're dealing with. Thank you.
I echo the sentiments that it was great and appreciate the amount of time it was to get all of these different angles, but it is still visible, as mentioned. I think that those are great points. Having said that, if there are no other comments, I would like to bring the applicant forward.
I'm the attorney for the applicant.
Before we do so, is there a time limit during that? And if you can make sure that you speak into the microphone.
I
so
shall,
we can
thank
hear
you.
Thank
Paul Boych, attorney on behalf of the applicant. Good afternoon, staff, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council members. We reviewed the comprehensive plan that was put together by staff, Mr. Flores. I think the ridge line, the guest house fits right in. It was set back an additional 40 feet with regard to the easement. That was an agreement between the two parties, between the neighbors. And they decided that for that sole purpose, so that the guest house would be pushed back deep enough so you couldn't see it from different areas of 74. And I think that was evident by the pictures. I think that, you know, the initial placement of the guest house, of course, had its issues because of the neighbor. We decided to just tear it down after it was approved, and it was pushed back deep into the area there. It fits right into the hillside, and I think you'll notice from those pictures, it's very difficult to see from the roadway, from 74, from Mesa View, from Stone Eagle. And I think I do understand that you may want to go up there and take a look at it, but I think the pictures do much better justice. I mean, walking the land's not going to, I don't think, give you a good idea. Based upon these photos, I think it's much better to look from these angles that are shown, because some of the angles that are depicted in these pictures, it may be difficult for you to sit at that location. So I'm here to answer any other questions you may have with regard to that. I'm fortunate because I've lived in Palm Desert, and actually South Palm Desert, for 15 years, and I'm familiar with Coulee Hills because I live literally next door to them. And I do every day get up and look at the ridge lines and look what's built up there. And there's a substantial amount of property that's being built there and built up there, and I get that. But this is a smaller unit. It fits perfectly on the property, and it's set back well enough that you cannot see it from the roadways. And if you do, it's a very minor view of it. And I don't think it has any impact on the hillside, which staff actually recommended, said it's going to have very, very minimal impact on the hillside and the views, and also on the environment that's surrounding it. So I'll answer any questions that you may have based upon my experience with the project.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Truby, you had a question?
See, this question is for Richard, if you don't mind, sorry. There's, regardless of when this plan is, if it's adopted and moves forward, in no way, shape, or form could this casita be used as a short-term rental, owner-occupied, or any other way, shape, or form, right?
Correct. It cannot be, it would not be an off-site. They could theoretically apply for an on-site, but that means they would have, this house would have to be their home that they live the majority of the time.
Okay, so that is one of the stipulations of on-site STR is 6 months plus a day. The owner has to be a resident there.
I'd have to
Not-
look at the exact, but for the most part, yes.
Not just they happen to be there at the same time as the STR renters.
They would have to prove that's their primary domicile.
Perfect, thank you.
Other questions? Okay. I concur that it's not ever the same to look at something from a picture as it would be to be there yourself. And what came to mind when I was looking at the pictures before the meeting is that it reminds me that when I was driving up to 29 Palms, as I was looking at the homes, I'm thinking, wow, how much things have changed. And I wonder how beautiful these hills were before people started building there. And so it is something that is noticeable, not just the big ones that are there, even you can see the little ones over the ridge. So I understand that it doesn't matter how far you set it back, there are still the ones that peek through. I support that Mayor Pro Tem has requested the opportunity to go and see for herself and have the opportunity to make that decision. I'm asking my peers, is that something, would you be interested in the opportunity to take a look?
Yeah, I would as well. I've been up there once over this several months ago to take a look at the original structure. And I'd like to take a second look for sure. I know they've already been put through the demolition and some delays already, but I just want to see it for myself and make sure that it's set back and makes all the neighbors happy and is good for the sightlines.
And I believe, so the neighbors, if I'm correct, you've already talked to the adjoining neighbors, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And they approve?
There was an agreement already in place
Mhm.
that said you couldn't build in a certain area.
Right.
And that was originally applied for, and then we demolished that portion and pushed it back, yes. We've not heard anything from the neighbors.
I'm ready to approve it, but I'm only one vote. So we need three.
So my question then would be, having two council members that have expressed the interest in wanting to go and take a look for yourself, I also am curious.
And my apology, I mean, I'm sorry to put anybody through any more delays, et cetera, but we get our agendas on Friday. It's a telephone book, there's a lot in here, but this pops up as an extremely important issue. You know, hillside development is critical. It you know, preserving those viewscapes is critically important. So I would ask for a little bit extra time to go take a look personally. On the, you know, this, like I said, this really sticks out in our agenda as something that is critically important. So thank you.
So is that a motion to have a continuance?
May I speak?
Yes.
May I?
Well, yes, there's how long does the applicant have?
2 additional minutes.
Okay, thank you.
We've been through a long process. I was at the Architectural Review Commission. It had nothing to do with the sightlines. They didn't like our windows. That was the comment. That was the only comment, and it passed there. We made it through the Architectural Review Commission twice, the Planning Commission twice. This same group voted for it, and we have improved it. And that's what I will say to you. I think this process has improved that project. We're back 40 feet. We moved it 40 feet, 6 inches back, closest to the road. And I just want to let you know, I've got a photo I want to show you, that this is right next to the Coachella water pump, okay? So this is not exactly pristine. It's also a huge telephone pole is on this spot. This is already the highest, best use that we're planning. And for us to go through this 2 years, and then for you to say you've got to reassess is, I'll say it, just disappointing. And it's not a fair and reasonable imposition. We are trying to do the right thing here. We have reached out to our 1,600 people. I think we had to mail to 4,000 feet. You brought up a good point. I think both of you, that maybe you have larger mail outs so people can give input. Okay, we mailed it out twice, 1,600 people, and you get one comment for and one comment against. And these are all the people that look up there. So I'm asking you, just put us out of our misery here. We have been through this and we're trying to do the right thing. And for you to say now that you're reassessing when it's a better project than when you approved, just is a huge disappointment.
Comments or questions?
For the comments made by the homeowner, I agree and I support the project.
You know, as in hearing that, the thoughts that I was having in looking at the pictures are creating different thoughts now that I recall that this was been an ongoing, a very passionate discussion. And if you notified that many people and they didn't have an objection, if it's gone through the very strenuous process of ARC, and I know that they are very meticulous in how they, let's just say they're meticulous. That's as far as I can say. If you've been through planning and ARC twice and notified that many people with such a marginal amount of folks that have even responded, you've done your due diligence. You have incurred a substantial cost in demolishing the previous one. So I think that you make great points. I think you make great points, and I'm supportive.
Well, here's where we are. I appreciate your comments that you've made. You don't want to go through something again where something needs to be changed. Better to do it right the first time. Neither in ARC nor in planning did it go through unanimously.
It did the first time.
Well, there were detractors on both times these last two times. So let's not go there. Let's do it right. And here's where we have a real issue, because if we don't all vote to continue it, it dies. Unless you choose to, you may have changed your vote also. I don't know that.
My question is there a guarantee we could get it back on the agenda in 2 weeks? I want to minimize the amount of delay or time. And I've just got
That's reasonable.
You know, I want to provide them some guarantees. I've just got a few questions that I'm not going to air out here in this format and forum rather, that I just want to have resolved. I'm inclined to vote for it, but I just want to go take a look for myself. That's about it. But is there a guarantee we could get there on the agenda in 2 weeks? At our next meeting.
My concern with that is that we're having one member of the council abstaining. It's not fair should we stay at a 2-2 vote.
Yeah.
And that doesn't.
So if it's a deadlock, project dies.
How long, but even then, like how far? If we continue and we keep going and we never get to that, it's still a detrimental impact. Is there any way that, how long do we have to bring it forward?
So you can continue this for the next city council meeting, which would be October 24th, and we would appreciate a continuance to a date certain. And if you did vote and the motion fails because it's 2-2, it's not that the project dies, it's that you would need to look for another motion.
So what you said in terms of looking for another motion, would we have to rephrase the motion or can you
You can
elaborate?
keep voting on the same motion until you reach a majority vote.
So either then, just to clarify, the majority to approve or the majority to deny. But I'm concerned at how long we may be stuck at a tie when I think how long has this process been ongoing? It's
Since 22. I mean,
I know it's in the report,
We-
Mayor Pro Tem. I just want to be sure that it's on.
I
the
didn't
record.
know these rules before, and now I know all of you so much better. I really do. And, you know, they said that we're a 2,800 square foot house. That's not true. It's like 2,100. And my office is in the laundry room. So I'm just saying, show a little bit of compassion here. We have done the right thing. We have passed every step. And I'm just asking you, just let us move forward. This is just not really fair.
I appreciate and I hear your passion on this. I also know we can't change things once you have scarred the side of the mountain. We know that. And you've done everything as right as possible, but to the point you had to actually scrape a building you put in.
Is that being held against me?
Well, you didn't do everything exactly right, is all I'm saying. So we do all make mistakes.
Well, that's
I
not
choo-
fair. That's just really not.
I choose not to make a mistake that could be permanent in our hillside. I'm asking for 2 weeks for us just to go up there, look at it, be satisfied that we are doing the right thing, that we are doing our job correctly. That's all I'm asking for.
When you started the process, were you aware of the hillside ordinance?
No, here's the issue. The covenant that's in that title, the title of the covenant was an anti-racism title, okay? So the engineers missed it. Well, I didn't see it, but the engineers missed it because the title on this covenant was something about don't put in anti-racist, if you see what I'm saying.
Redlining.
So it didn't get caught. But as soon as the neighbor brought it up, we tried to work out a deal that just didn't work, and that was okay. I mean, he was completely reasonable, nice guy. I said, we'll take it out. It was a mistake. But it really wasn't even, when you don't see it on the covenant of the title, it's just not fair to say we made a mistake. We fixed an error, and all of this is made in good faith at substantial cost. I mean, we're in at $200,000, and now you're asking for more delay after we've successfully made it through what you ask us to do. And that process is good. Again, my conclusion is your process made our project better, but you shouldn't stop it. It's just not fair.
Yes.
This question is for Isra. How much subjectivity is there truly for us? On what grounds could we deny this, as long as it falls within all the other city ordinances?
If you can articulate or if you can articulate a reason, a basis for denial where the application is not consistent with a city requirement, that would be a basis for denial. So you would have to make a finding based on the record and the presentation that the application doesn't meet the requirements, the city's requirements.
I think that we've heard one of the other public hearings was regarding a hardship. And that would be, for example, on short-term rentals when they started and allowing them. I think that this would be something where we need to consider that this has put you at a hardship. That has been part of the ongoing discussions where you were saying that this wasn't something that you set out to do. You didn't deliberately do this. There wasn't the malintent, where sometimes we see people that try to skirt something, and that's very different. I see that your commitment to the project, that was a huge cost to tear it down. That I know has been difficult. That has been challenging. The state created the objective standards guidelines so that there wasn't denial over aesthetics. So I agree that, it should be something truly substantial that's there. I think that we need to uphold and look at how we move forward with the hillside ordinance, but I think this is a hardship situation. I truly do. I see both sides of it as I deliberate, but I feel that you've done your due diligence. You've notified your neighbors. I don't think that this is going to necessarily set a precedent for every single person to come and say, now I want to do that. I think that having brought this forward and bringing new attention to the hillside ordinance will allow staff or the ARC to ensure that this is a more prominent request and checklist item to go through. as mentioned, that two of the people that had voted against it that were more familiar with it, those people may not always be present to make that vote. And if we establish this as the opportunity, just as you mentioned that this has allowed your process and your project to improve, this would allow us as the opportunity to say, moving forward, we need to ensure that the Hillside Ordinance is a prominent discussion. I'm not sure if that's part of it or not, but there are opportunities to look at exceptions. I truly believe that this is a hardship situation, and I support your request. Additional thoughts?
Well, I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to support the continuance until the
No.
next meeting?
No, I make a motion to approve the project.
I second.
Motion passes 3-1 with Mayor Pro Tem Harnick voting no.
Thank you. Hearing closed. Do we have any pending informational items? Seeing that there are no pending informational items, we now adjourn at 5:46 p.m. Thank you so much, folks.